Point 3 and 3.5. The moment you have a should, you should do this, I should do that, either stated or implied, you have an ideology. And that as necessary preamble to this. The most relevant point of an ideology in terms of its social impact, its economic impact, its practical impact, is how the ways in which you can treat people and still be in accordance with this ideology. People who agree with you and people who disagree with you differ. The ways in which an ideology says you should treat people who agree and treat people who disagree differ is the primary point at which that ideology has impact on people who subscribe to it and people who don't. And here I make no bones at all about my humanism. The impact that an ideology needs to have, and I say need in the sense of both some granted abstract and fairly metaphysical ethical system, but also just in terms of very practical logistics given limited resources and competition for those resources. The impact that an ideology needs to have is one of problem solving, one of shared problem solving. An ideology needs to, in order to be useful, provide a framework that allows human beings to resolve the problems concerning those human beings and hopefully other human beings as well, but at least the human beings that are actively engaged in the problem solving. If an idea puts you in a position to help out your neighbor as well as yourself, that's great, and I certainly have a preference for those. But an ideology that doesn't even help you is not a very useful one. Those limited resources that I mentioned earlier are not just limited to things like food, shelter, acreage, fuels, what have you. Time is a resource that is limited. I'm not doomsaying here. I am saying that a given problem that has a degenerative nature or a progressive nature becomes more problematic when more time is applied. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Depending on the rate of that, the time available for problem solving may become a critical issue. And we can think of many problems that we're looking at on a global scale where that is the case, where time is a factor, where time is the factor. And if time is a resource, then distribution of labor, efficiency of labor, maybe even the invocation of those occasional brilliant moments where we leap forward, those become very necessary. And in order for those, distribution, collaboration, cooperation, and inspiration to be effectively applied, we have to be working together. This is why, to my thinking, the most relevant aspect of an ideology is how it tells you how to treat people outside your ideology. Depending on the bounds that it sets, and depending on the behaviors that it mandates, that ideology very well may be cutting you off from necessary resources. The necessary resource of other human minds. The necessary resource of other people to help with the solution. Or, very possibly, cutting you off from the people who have solved the problem. Putting all these together, and at this point, this is for TJ and not only for TJ. This is in agreement with Eddie and not only with Eddie. There are few traps as insidious as finding oneself in the position of advocating a celebration of freedom, becoming trapped by the cyclical nature of that celebration of freedom and by the expectations of those listeners one is attracted. And in so doing, winding up isolated from the network of human resource, from the network of human activity, of collaboration, of shared knowledge and shared ideas and shared process, wherein one would find wherein people are developing solutions to the problems that drove us into this position of advocacy in the first place. It's a very, very effective way of finding ourselves the prophet of a religion seeking a holy land that we can't enter.